is the 18th of February. We are continuing our reflections from the Gospel of Matthew, from the Passion narratives. And I read today from chapter 26, beginning at verse 47. While Jesus was still speaking, of course, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man, arrest him." And at once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way?" At that hour Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. The scene is disciples and Jesus are in the Garden of Gethsemane on Mount of Olives. If you happen to go to Israel as a pilgrim, you will go to the Garden of Gethsemane, and some of the olive trees are still there, and it's a beautiful place and a moving experience to walk through in the Garden of Gethsemane. In the Passion narratives, besides Jesus, the other person often referred to is Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 who betrayed him. One of the 12. The 12 is always mentioned together. The 12, the Dodeca, 10 plus 2, the 12. The disciples of Jesus had a distinctive identity, and after resurrection, they were called the apostles. A number of people only believed and accepted that the disciples who were with Jesus while he was alive on earth were the apostles, no others. But once when Paul appears on the scene along with Barnabas, Silas, Titus and others, Paul claims himself also to be an apostle. And we see in chapter 9 of Paul's letter to Corinthians the debate about who is an apostle and Paul trying to defend his apostleship. So Judas, one of the 12, the one who belonged to the original 12 disciples. We read in chapter 1 of the Acts of the Apostles, once Judas betrayed Jesus, and out of agony he goes and hangs himself, and there is the place of Judas vacant among the 12. And then in the chapter 1 of Acts of the Apostles, we read how the disciples cast lots and they choose Matthias in place of Judas. While they were in Garden of Gethsemane, Judas arrives. Judas did not come with the other disciples. We read in the gospel narratives, while they were still in the upper room, Judas leaves the upper room and goes away. And then he appears in the Garden of Gethsemane with a large crowd who came with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Their intention is to arrest Jesus. And earlier, we know from gospel narratives, Judas Iscariot had gone to the Pharisees, to the chief priests, and discussed with them how best they could arrest Jesus and he can play a role of betrayal. And he told them a sign of kissing the man, because it was not easy to identify in the darkness of the night. And Judas comes and he kisses Jesus, and they come and arrest him. What an irony! A kiss is sign and symbol of love, affection, goodness. But with that kiss, Judas betrays Jesus. Even at that point of time, Jesus addresses Judas as friend. Friend, do what you are here to do. Then they come up and lay their hands on Jesus and arrest him. While Jesus is being arrested, one of them, in Gospel of Mark we read it was Peter, who takes a sword and cuts off the ear of the high priest. One of the wonders is that Jesus heals that servant whose ear is cut while Jesus is arrested. Jesus says, I was in the temple, but you did not arrest me. If I want, I could ask my Father to send me 12 legions of angels. One legion is about 6,000 soldiers. 12 legions God would be able to send. That means 72,000 angels. But in order that the scriptures may be fulfilled, Jesus does not pray that Father should send him angels to protect him. At that hour, as they arrest Jesus, Jesus says, have you come to arrest me as a bandit, as a robber? I was in the temple, but you did not arrest me. Once again, Jesus says, just as the scriptures must be fulfilled, you have come. Just as the prophets have said, they came and arrested. And all the disciples deserted him and fled. What a sad event. Those who were with Jesus for 3 long years, those who said that they will not betray, those who said that they will not deny, but yet to protect their own lives, they all desert Jesus and run away. We have seen in the movie Karunamaidu, or in the English movies that were produced about the crucifixion, especially about the passion of Christ, we know how they deserted and ran away. Let us think of ourselves. If something like that happens, do we run away? Or do we stand like the Christians of the early church, in spite of the persecutions, in spite of death, and in spite of all sorts of trials and temptations, early Christians stood firm, and many of them became martyrs, so much so the church fathers could say the church was built on the blood of the martyrs. Today we live at difficult times. Christians are denied many things. Christians are exploited, and in places we are also persecuted. Yet we show our solidarity with the suffering Christians in our own country and in the rest of the world. Do we run away or do we stand like Sadhu Sundar Singh? Come what may, I'll follow Jesus. So be it. Amen.